Okay, some folks are having some issues with one of the playground assignments. It's 8, playground 8, and it's page 13, the 501 dart game. So I don't want to give you the answer to the 501 dart game exactly, so I'm creating my own game here with different rules just to kind of give you an idea of how you might go about solving this problem. Okay, so in my game, you try to get as close as you can to 100 points. You play 5 rounds. Each round you roll a 10-sided die and add to the total score. So I suppose if you roll 10, 10 times, then that's 100 points, but we'll see how close we get to 100 points. So let's see. There's a couple things in this one. First of all, we need a variable called total score. So I'm creating a variable called total score, and we're going to start it out at 0. Then we're going to have like a variable for each round. So maybe round 1 score is equal to 0. And then I'm going to copy and paste this 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. We could also just do round score and then reset the round score at the beginning of each round. So for instance, we could get rid of these ones and just call it round score, and then at the beginning of each round, then reset it back to 0. But then you don't store the scores for each round anywhere. So if you ever want to know at the end of the game, well, what did you score in round 1, 2, 3, 4? At least those scores will be stored here. So there are the variables that we got. And let's also make another constant. Let max score equal 100. Okay, so that's as much as you can get. So then with that, we can subtract the total score from the max score and see how far we were away from 100 points. All right, that's just a little bonus. So let's get started with the game. Okay, so before we refactor this code and maybe at the end we'll make it nice and pretty and put it into functions and stuff, let's just write it out how it's going to work. So at the beginning of the game, let's say you're going to play your first round. So this is going to be first round. And the first round, the round score is already at 0, so we don't have to do that. But we're going to roll a die. So I'm just going to type that out. Roll dice and add to round score. This is what I like to do when I get stuck in programming, is put a comment in and type it out in regular English, because then I can turn it into code later. Otherwise, my thoughts kind of get jumbled and I forget where I was or what I was doing. So what would probably be a good idea is to have a function called roll dice. So let's do that just to make it extra cool. So func roll dice. And we're always going to roll, in this game, we're always going to roll a 10-sided die. So let's not like pass in a variable. Sometimes when I do these kinds of ones, I'll do like number of sides and then an integer. So then you could pass in a number of sides on the dice. But in this case, because it's always going to be 10-sided die, we're just going to say roll die. I guess it would be D-I-E. And then return a value of integer in this case. So the value that's going to be returned is the result of the random dice roll. So we can say return, and now here's where I got to look this up. It used to be arc4, but I forget what they use these days for random numbers. Okay, so here is the function for rolling 1 through 10, which is what, if you roll a 10-sided die, you can get 1 through the number 10. And int.random parentheses in and colon, and then 1.10, 1 through 10. Okay, I'm going to kind of make this a little smaller here. And so now we've got our roll dice. And so the first round, we're going to roll the die and then add it to round score. So round score 1 is up here. I'm going to use that. So in this case, we'll do round score 1 is equal to round score 1 plus roll die. Okay, so we're taking the round score 1 and we're adding whatever it was before and your roll of the dice. And then there's actually, for each round, we're going to roll twice. According to the rules, it says, game where you try to get as close as you can to 100, you play 5 rounds. Each round you roll 2 10-sided die and add to the total score. Okay, so then at the end of round 1, we say total score is equal to total score plus the round score 1. You'll see the difference between round score 1 and roll dice is there's parentheses here. That's because this is a function that returns a value, and this is just a property here. Now, we may or may not have done this yet, but there's a way to simplify this. So instead of saying round score 1 is equal to round score 1 plus roll die, you can get rid of this here. And then I was hoping that it'd be like that, but it's not. You have to, then you flip-flop these. Plus equals. So plus equals. So round score 1 plus equals roll die. This is exactly the same functionality as this. It's just shorter. So I'm going to do that for this one too. Plus equals, and then plus equals down here. So right now here, at this point, I'm going to print a statement because that way I can say, so we scored this points in round 1, and now our total score is so this much in round 1, and our total score is this much. Okay, let's see if this is working. We scored 17 points in round 1, and now our total score is 17. Okay, that seems to be working. Now the cool thing about this is pretty much all of this stuff I can copy and paste down here. Now a very smart programmer once told me that anytime you're copying and pasting code, inside of the same, especially inside of the same Swift file, then you should really think about turning that into a function or refactoring it, because you shouldn't be copying and pasting. So what we should probably do in the end is create this as a function, execute round or play 1 round. That would be maybe the best way to do it. So, but let's just for now, let's just do it this way, because I think this would pass. If you want to pass this assignment, then this would work just fine. If you want to get fancy, then you can put them in functions. So round 2 score now is equal to roll dice. Round 2 score, total score is equal to round 2 score. Okay, so now over here, I'm just changing 1s to 2s here, and total score is this. So let's see, this is the second round, and let's see, we scored 17 points the first round. Again, that's interesting, and the score is 17. We scored 15 points the second round, and our total score is 32. 15 plus 17 is 32. So it's working. And now we got to do this 5 times. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause the video and I'll do that really quick. Okay, now take a look at what I've done here. I got a little frustrated because I didn't like copy and pasting that. So what I did do was I made a function called play around. Play around returns an integer. So when we call play around, it does some things here. The first thing it does, it rolls 2 dice and adds it up. And that's the score for this round. So then we take the total score and add the score. So it's like, adding up your total score inside of this function, because I didn't want to, and I'm also printing it out because I wanted to keep it really clean. So that down here, when we actually execute it, it's just a piece of cake. I did also want to return the score value, and that is because I wanted to store it for later. So again, I wanted to store round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, so we could look back and see what we scored in each of them. So here we go. So now instead of all this other stuff that we were gonna write, all we got to do is say round 1 score equals play around, round 2 score equals play around, 3, 4, 5. Now, boom. I can even get rid of that comment because it makes sense. I don't need the comment there because it reads properly. Round 1 score is equal to play around. So let's see if this works. Boom. Okay, let's see. So we scored 9, 16, 10, 3, 17. Total score is going up and up and up. and then the final score here is 55. So just at the end here, I'll just write out our final score is we can just leave it at that. There, just indicating that it's the end of the game. Well, let me look back at the instructions and see if I've done what I needed to do. You play 5 rounds. Each round you roll 10-sided die, add to the total score. See how close you can get to 100. I'll run it again and see. Make sure it doesn't have the same number the second time. Run it a couple times and see. Oh, we rolled 52 this time. Wow, we only scored a 30 this time. That's pretty bad. Let's try again. 59, okay, almost 60. Okay, so you can see it's kind of working. We've created variables and constants. I'm not actually using this constant here, max score, but if I really wanted to at the end here, I could say that was, and then this much away from max. So in that case, I could say max score minus total score. So that should work. Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah, 58, 42 away from the max.